Well, what might seem interesting to tackle the issue from a slightly, but not from a slightly tangential point was there's a lot of learned rabbinic discussion as to which blessing to make when one has the vaccination. So there's already an assumption there that there should be a positive take up of the vaccination. Some rabbis say it should be the Shehechiyanu blessing, which somebody has on a new occasion because it's the first time one would have had the blessing, the vaccination. So a new occasion, and in that blessing it says we praise God for preserving life, and preserving life is the be all and end all in Judaism, unquestionably so. That is the standout single value: the respect for life, the sanctity of life. It says in the Torah you should be very, very much careful to look after yourselves, guard your souls, guard yourselves. So we should do everything absolutely within our possible capabilities to do that. And it's quite interesting that even if you look back in history and the history of the rabbinic tradition and vaccinations, going back a couple hundred years when vaccinations were far less exact and fun, and the margin for error was even a little higher, maybe a few percent in those days. And this rabbi lost 2 children to a smallpox outbreak, and he said, no, it's important, it's imperative and important to get vaccinated for the sake of the individual and the public good. Now, going back to this question about which blessing to say, they decided that the blessing that should be said would be the blessing which in Hebrew, I'm not sure how good your Hebrew is, Raman, but I won't test you afterwards, but it's Hatov v'Hametiv. That means God who is good and does good. And the rabbis say that this blessing is designed for a situation which is beneficial for the individual saying that blessing, and who does good to others. Who's good for him and good for others. In other words, he's doing something, he's performing an act which is going to be good for him and good for, if you like, for society as a whole. And that's the blessing that's kind of alighted upon by most authorities, that if somebody feels that they want to say a blessing on having a vaccination, then that would be a good one, because there's nothing more important than looking after yourself, because then you can lead a proper religious spiritual life, be useful to society, be useful for your family, and also help others as well. Which undoubtedly we've got this. This is the blessing that's going to take us out. I mean, the thing is, I'm no medic, and I don't claim to be a medical expert. And the Torah tells us very much, when you have a problem, go to the experts. And almost unequivocally, apart from a few quack doctors here and there, which we can talk about in a second, the medical profession tell us that vaccination is going to be one of the most important ways out of this pandemic. And therefore, if we have a question, if I have a problem in my bathroom, I go to the plumber. If I have a problem, a medical problem, how much more so that we go to the doctors. Exodus tells us, and in fact, in the Jewish people, we would have read in the Torah that v'rapo yirapeh, that refuah, that the doctor should heal. And the rabbis say, aha, from there you see the doctors have got an imperative to do what they can to heal people. And that is so important. A person shouldn't be quietist and say, right, I'm going to sit here and do nothing. I've got this affliction. I'm going to wait and see that God's going to get me out of this. No, the doctors have got an imperative to heal, and you've got an imperative to go to the doctor. This is a blessing. This vaccination is an absolute blessing. It's a God's gift to us to help us out of this. We had in our synagogue Professor David Katz, who I'll quote. He's a retired professor of epidemiology, and he came to speak at our synagogue a couple of years ago, actually, on just Jewish medical ethics generally. And I've kept up a friendship with him. And I asked him, well, I don't know, 10 months ago, how are we going to get out of this mess? And he said, well, it's going to be vaccinations and medication. That's going to be the only way that's going to get us out. And it looks like, that's going to be that's going to be the route out of the pandemic. Person can't sit around and rely either, if they're concerned, rely on what's so-called herd immunity. Let somebody else be immune. I don't need to do anything. No, we've all got to play our part, and everybody has an absolute imperative to do that. And there's no question. The chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Lau, who has an interesting background. His father was like my mother. My late mother was he should live well. She's passed away now. Was a Holocaust survivor. But Rabbi Lau, the present Rabbi Lau, has just suspended a rabbinical judge for saying he's not going to get inoculated. He's just suspended a rabbinical judge in Israel, has removed him because this is a public danger. If you're going to have they are role models for the other people, and people will say, well, they're not going to get vaccinated, I'm not going to get vaccinated. So he's acted very swiftly and actually suspended somebody. So it just shows the importance of listening to the experts. That's what the Torah tells us. Listen to your experts. And doctors have got a special place for us. That we should, how much more so should we listen to the doctors to look after ourselves? If we listen to the, as we said before, listen to the plumbers when we have a plumbing issue, we have a medical issue, we listen to the doctors. And I can also speak if I just give me a few more. I can also speak. I'm one of my roles as well is I'm the senior Jewish hospital chaplain. And I've actually been into Hillingdon Hospital a few times during the pandemic to visit. I've had permission to go in, which is also not so straightforward now because infection control, people aren't allowed in. But I've been allowed in to see people with COVID, and it's really not pleasant to see people there with COVID spluttering, or if it's spluttering away, oxygen masks. I don't want to get too graphic, but it's not pleasant if someone's on an end of life situation. COVID's not a good place to be by any means. I think people will understand what I'm saying. I'm also been on temporarily duty as the Jewish chaplain at the Royal Free London Hospital Trust, which encompasses the Royal Free Hospital in Hampstead, Barnet General Hospital and Chase Farm. And I've been particularly involved in the Royal Free Hospital. And, to see COVID patients there, to see patients in intensive care, to say prayers for them, it just brings everything home to you. And doctors were saying to me, Rabbi, you tell your community the message, how important it is to look after yourselves, to be very careful, take precautions, get the vaccination. I went to the Royal Free to visit a patient in the intensive care unit, actually, and they just frantically, this was a few weeks ago, thank God the situation's a little better now. Yes, a little better now. The hospitals are just getting a little bit more back together, which is absolutely, of course, how we want it to be. And she started talking to me outside. They were just, I didn't even go in to visit the person, actually, because they were getting the ICU ready, the intensive care unit ready. And in fact, at the Royal Free, instead of having one floor of intensive care units, there are currently 3 floors of intensive care units, mainly with COVID. And she was saying, telling me, I wondered why she was talking to me for so long. This is a doctor who's got, I imagine she's really busy. They work long hours, long shifts. And she was saying to me, she said to me, tell your community about the importance of adhering to all the rules, and I'm sure also have the vaccine, of course. And so it's just so important. It looks like now we are doing a bit better now. We've got to keep it that way. And if we can all follow the rules and take up the vaccination, we will really be in a much better place. And I think it could be in a few months, we could really be in an even better place still. If you're going to contribute to the number one, the first point about contributing to your own personal health, that's a plus. And also to be able to, there's no greater value in Judaism than supporting the community. There's no greater value with life and supporting the community. That is considered to be the most wonderful thing to do, to help the community. And if someone can help the wider community, and if someone can help someone they don't even know, the general public, Joe Public, let's say, who they don't even know, and they've got no particular feeling to, that is the highest accolade that a person should give. As again, I think we'd start off with concentric circles. The rabbis say, whoever saves one life is like saving the whole world. So here you're saving one life, it saves oneself, and then one goes out in concentric circles and saves lots and lots of other people by taking the vaccine. It's the most laudable thing. And I don't really understand people are some hesitant, or they say there's risks involved. I mean, people take risks all the time. People wouldn't go in a car if they were concerned about risks. Whereas the risk of the vaccine is again, I'm not a doctor, but I mean, if you look at the scientific evidence, is minuscule compared to the risk of getting COVID. Then with all the worry that and all the problems that could bring, the danger to life, that is enormous. So definitely to preserve the public good and to help the general public is absolutely incredible priority. It's fit and appropriate, and in that respect, certainly it's fit and appropriate. It's kosher to have to take the vaccine, and I would, based on the opinion, again, not my own opinion. I'm not a doctor, but based on the opinion of the scientists, of the doctors, I would strongly recommend everyone to have the vaccine when they're offered it. There's no equivocation about that whatsoever.